On Community Connections, you normally get civic events, but tonight you're just going to have to settle for rock and roll. Today on Community Connections, we have a special guest, formerly of the E Street Band and Steel Mill, and again with Steel Mill, Vini Lopez.
Pleasure to be here.
I want to thank you for coming over.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I think I probably heard you play drums in Steel Mill. I had to still be in high school, so that's 40 years ago.
It's a while ago, Steel Mill.
Yeah.
You know, the music still holds up, thank God. So.
Now, it's been the last couple of years. You got the rights to the name and to the music, and you've been touring again. You were just over in Europe playing.
We played in Rotterdam, Holland, at a Springsteen convention over there with other bands from Spain and from Holland, from Italy. Graziano Romani from Italy, he was wonderful. But Steel Mill's, it's starting to. People like to hear the old music. They never heard a band do it. They've heard all the crummy bootlegs that are out there, and I wish I had a nickel for every one of those I played on, but they like to hear the music, and the music is quite now, too. We do songs about America.
Are you doing new songs, old songs, or a little bit of both? I mean,
just Steel Mill from the old days.
So Hail, Hail, Resurrection?
That's going to be on our new CD that's coming out.
When's that coming out?
Well, hopefully in a couple of months. I'm working on it again this week.
Now, we were talking before the show. Steel Mill probably played its last concert when, before you guys started up again?
In 1970, our last concert actually was at the Upstage in Asbury Park. The last two shows that we did.
Were they was it planned to be the end of Steel Mill?
Yes.
What was going to happen after that?
Bruce wanted to go in a different direction, more of an R&B sounding band with girl singers and horn players, and you know that.
He's done some of that.
Oh yeah, he still does it. You know, and but Steel Mill was kind of in a category by itself. Epics, you know, songs that told a lot of stories, painted a lot of pictures, you know, and that's the beauty of the songs, I think.
Now, when Steel Mill was playing, I mean, I was a kid, but you'd go to various places. Parks in Long Branch, I know he played the Old Armory, he played Garfield Park, you were telling me he played West End Park.
Played here at Monmouth College.
What kind of crowds would you get, and who would come out back then?
Well, for like the show we played here, the first show we ever did was in West End, at the park, right by the windmill. And there was like 8 or 10 other bands playing in there, and they were all doing the music of the day. Then we come up, and we were doing stuff written by Bruce specifically for Steel Mill, and we were different, and people took notice of that. Now, the next show we played, the second show we played, was here on the back steps of Woodrow Wilson Hall that overlooks the big field down there, and it was another similar show where there was all these local bands playing, and there was maybe 500, 700 people sitting down there on the, on the steps and listening to the whole show. And then we started to play, and when we started to set our stuff up, everybody got up and wanted to get right in close to what we were doing. So we all ran inside Woodrow Wilson Hall. We didn't know what the hell was going on. We said, wait a minute, we better get out of here, you know. But then we played our show, and that's where the doctor came up and ripped Bruce's. We were too loud. He lived like 4 blocks away, said we were too loud, and told Bruce to shut up. And Bruce told him to shut up, and he went up and ripped his. Show was over at that point. That ended it? Yeah, we should have threw the guy into the crowd, but we didn't. We just.
Now, that wasn't the only time that the plug got pulled on a Steel Mill show.
We were consistently getting, midnight would come, and we'd have like 2 minutes left, and the power would go off. So, typically, me being a drummer, I don't use power. I would keep playing.
Right.
So then somebody'd get the hint, and they'd plug us back in, and we'd finish our song, and we'd be done. But
Well,
I got arrested once in Richmond for inciting a riot, they said, because I kept playing.
Was that in a Steel Mill concert?
Steel Mill. Oh, yeah. VCU gym.
Virginia Commonwealth. Now, Steel Mill, I mean, you guys had regional fame.
Yes.
I mean, when there was a Steel Mill concert around here, it got to be a pretty big deal. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for there to be a couple thousand people.
We played
there.
many shows in the gym here.
Yeah.
We'd work with the fraternities, you know. It was great. They'd get $1, we'd get $1. It cost $2 to get in the show. That was one of the famous shows, too, where Danny Federici, my good friend, actually got his name the Phantom, because after the Middletown show, where everybody got arrested,
the
and
Clearwater
busted
show,
out, the Clearwater show, one of the next shows we did was here at Monmouth College, and the cops knew that Danny Federici was going to be here at Monmouth College. So that day we set his organ up. We wouldn't let him anywhere near the place. And then just before the show went on, we went out to Danny's car. He was parked way in the back of the parking lot. We said, okay, it's time. So we brought him in, and all the cops were around. All the people were there.
They were
1,000
looking for him?
people in there. But once we started playing, they couldn't really come up on stage and get him. So a Steel Mill show usually was a couple hours long.
Right.
So at the end of the show, we did Hail, Hail, Resurrection. And during that song, Bruce started pulling people up on the stage. And he must have pulled like 70 people up on the stage. Everybody's playing the drums, they're dancing, they're doing stuff, but Danny got in the crowd and disappeared.
The Phantom.
The cops never got him.
Did you, like, at what point did you say, you know, Bruce is going to be this huge star? I mean, I saw you guys play in high school. The first time I remember sitting on my bed my freshman year in college, reading Rolling Stone magazine, and his first album's coming out. I said, I know who that is, because he was a local star. But did you ever envision he was going to be?
The first time that I really saw him, I knew that this man had some charisma going for himself, and he was an entertainer.
When was that?
The first time I really saw Bruce was in like 1966 at a band battle we were in.
Right.
But he was just starting to really hone his stuff then. But I saw him here at the Italian American Club. He was playing with Earth in Long Branch.
Okay.
And Danny Federici and we had been in a band with a friend of mine, Billy Chinnock.
Sure, he's still around.
He died.
I'm
he
sorry.
died last year.
He was a musician around here forever.
He was before Bruce.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny and I played with him. Gary Talent, we played with Bill. But when we had a band called the Downtown Tangiers Rock and Rhythm and Blues Band. Now, when this band broke up, because Bill had a problem with the bass player, and it was just tough to keep doing it, Danny and I still wanted to play together. So my friend Chuck Dillon and myself, we were searching around for guitar players, going to this place, looking, and we saw Billy Ryan, and then we came across Bruce up here playing with Earth. And that's when I went up to Bruce and I said, hey, I'm Vinny, and why don't you come to the Upstage, which was in Asbury Park, and jam with us. And a couple of weeks later, Danny and I were going into the Upstage, and we heard this music going on upstairs, get upstairs, and there's Bruce, just the way he used to look in those old days. It was him and little Vinny Roslin and Big Bobby Williams, who is not with us any longer either, and they were jamming. When they got done, once again, Danny and I went up and said, hey, listen, I play keys, he's just the drummer, let's have a jam. We got a bass player, little Vinny, and then we jammed. We got permission from Tom Potter, who owned the place. He said, sure, take an hour. And we got up there and we just played, and it was like natural. Then we went down to the Green Mermaid coffee shop, sat around, and came up with what we were going to do, and we found Tinker.
And Tinker was your manager?
Tinker became our manager. He built us the PA. He had the truck. We could stay there at the surfboard factory that he owned. It was something. We just became a big family at that point, and rehearsed.
What year was that, about 60?
68.
68?
Yeah.
So you stayed together for about 3 years?
Yeah.
It's funny because I would have said it was a lot longer than that. You know, that's the funny thing about people.
There's a lot of stuff that went down in the 3 years. We went to California. We always were going back and forth to Richmond and Nashville. We played in Nashville. But Richmond and this area was our big drawing points.
you mentioned something. You said the concert in Middletown where the plug got pulled.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't there. My mother wouldn't let me go. I was about 14.
Can you blame her?
No, I got kids now. I was about 13, 14 years old, and you know, there was going to be beer there, and she just said, no way. And
I wasn't there either.
You told me that, but to the extent you can tell. But what I remember is the next day, and my wife was there. Her parent, you know, I don't know if she snuck out of the house or what, but the next day you opened up the front page of the old Red Bank Register, and the Middletown cops had shut down the Steel Mill concert. They literally pulled the plug.
They did, and they beat some friends of mine up. They arrested a lot of people. They couldn't get Danny, though. And you see, they say that Danny pushed those speakers over on Chief McCarthy, but he didn't. The chief, from what I understand, when the chief was going up on the stage, he grabbed the speakers and tried to give himself a boost, and they fell on him. But then Danny escaped again.
Right.
You know, until we played here at Monmouth College, then he escaped again.
Well, I'll tell you, that concert just, I mean, every kid in Monmouth County knew about that concert. If you asked people if they were there had to have been 50,000 people who claimed to have been there. Oh, it just became the most famous event.
We played two. The first one that we played was like sort of like that, but the second one was the big one.
Yeah.
That got rated.
How'd you become a drummer? When did you say, this is for me?
Well, I was, since I was a kid, I was in a drum and bugle.
You grew up around here?
I grew up in Neptune. And I got myself involved in a drum and bugle corps when I was like in 3rd grade playing just a bugle. A fife and drum corps it was at that time. With
Not
bugles.
even the drum stuff?
Not drums. And I played with them till I got in all the way through 8th grade. When I was in 8th grade, my friend, who is my doctor now, he's a doctor here in Long Branch, Augie Rioli. Now, he said, because he was in my class at Holy Spirit School in Asbury, he says, hey, they're having a teenage dance down here at the USO Club. And you're going to come. It's a Thursday night. So I went down there, and then I was walking in the front door, and you hear the music going, but it sounded live. And he said, that's just a guy spinning records. But it was a guy spinning records playing drums along with records. His name was Buzzy Lubinsky. So I was like, wow, I really loved it. So I got a job with Buzzy, helping him clean up, sweeping the floor after the show, you know, because he played all of the St. Uriel's kids dance, CYO dances in Asbury. You know, he played a lot of different places. And every once in a while, he'd say, okay, he showed me how to hold the sticks. And he'd say, okay, you sit down and play. So I get to play a little bit. But I got a practice pad, and I got all these 45s of stuff that I liked. And I just started trying to hit where I heard the hits. And then the next thing I knew, Buzzy had me in a band with Sonny Ken. Sonny and the Starfires was the name of the band. And
how old were you then?
I was 14. And he had me in another band, my first encounter with Billy Chinnock. And I walked in, and I had Buzzy's drums. And I sat down, and I said, okay, let's play. They said, do Wipeout. I said, no. And I don't want to do Wipeout. I want to just play and sing. Right. No. So I didn't get the job. I didn't even get to play a note. They got rid of me. But then, in Sonny's band, when I went and auditioned for Sonny, I could sing and play, which is something that I've been doing all along, just singing and playing. And that's how I really got my start. And the very first place that I ever played in front of a crowd was on the corner of 13th and E Street in Belmar. There's a Methodist church there. And we were rehearsing, and Joey Pesapane,
You got a minute to tell this story, and we can finish in the second half.
We were at his house, and the priest came over and said, hey, would you fellas come and entertain the kids downstairs? We packed our stuff up, went downstairs, and played for the kids. It was good. It was good.
Did you get paid a lot of money for that gig?
We got paid no money for that. Just like today.
Well, we're going to take a little break, and we'll come back for the second half of the show.
You got it.
You're looking at the #1 cause of lung cancer. That's why the Surgeon General issued this warning. Now you're looking at the #1 cause of lung cancer for non-smokers. That's why the Surgeon General issued this warning. Radon is an invisible radioactive gas that seeps inside your home from underground. Whether you smoke or not, radon can cause lung cancer. Protect your family. Have your home tested. Call 1-800-SOS-RADON. Radon problems can be fixed.
Alone in the dark, but now you've come along, and you light up my life. You give me hope.
You don't have to be a hero to be a hero. When you adopt a child from foster care, just being there makes all the difference.
Back for the second half of the show with Vini Lopez, currently with you just call it Steel Mill. There's no...
We started out calling it Steel Mill Retro.
Right.
But that's like the name of my company that I formed, and we just went back to Steel Mill because...
Who's in it now?
I have John Galella on guitar, I have Eddie Persante on bass, and a few keyboard players have been playing in and out with us. We're still trying to find the right one.
Who sings?
I do all the singing.
You do all the singing?
Yeah.
Are you playing around here anytime?
Right now we're busy trying to get our second CD done.
Uh-huh.
Our first CD, The Dead Sea Chronicles, we did that a few years ago, and all of a sudden now I got a distributor. I don't have a record company per se, but we're nominated 2 Grammy positions this year.
Really?
Coming up, yeah. Best, if you can dig this, best new rock act.
Well, in a sense you are.
In a sense we are. The old comes back to the new, and then best rock album.
Really? That's great.
So
That's great.
I'm honored. It's something.
Now, the guys at the beginning, a lot of the names you mentioned in the first half of the show, you know, a lot of them are still around playing music. Long Branch, Asbury, Belmar.
Oh yeah.
These guys have been around a long, you know, the sound of Asbury Park. When did you first meet, you know, Gary Tallon or Dan?
Gary I went to high school with.
Where'd you, Neptune High School?
Gary and Southside Johnny.
Uh-huh.
Those guys were in my class. And in those days, though, we were just starting out to play, really. We had a band in 66, 67 called The Moment of Truth, where I had been with Sonny and the Starfires, but then Gary and Tommy Wario and Ricky DeSarno, they didn't have a drummer, so they asked me, would you want to come drum? And we played the Student Prince in Asbury, you know,
yeah.
many gigs, you know. Those were the days, though, when you'd go and set your band up on Tuesday night, and then you'd play Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then you'd do 2 matinees in there, too, every week, and you didn't move your stuff. You know, the bars just had you there. Now it's totally different. It's hard to get any kind of gig in this day and age. We don't really, Steel Mill, the way we are, we don't really play in a bar scene anyway. We do Steel Mill. We're not doing any Rolling Stones songs,
Right.
you know.
I mean, when we do stuff in Long Branch, it seems most of the groups, you know, they cover other artists. You don't
Right.
get too many original players out there.
Right. No, that's the thing. Even back in the day, when we first started doing this stuff, that's what made us kind of stand out. With Bruce standing out because he wrote songs. You know, writing songs is big. You want to have a future in the music business, write some songs. You know, and if you're like a drummer like me, you just keep doing it. You know, like I used to stink when I first started.
Practice, practice.
You play.
When did you know this was for you? I mean, right away?
Right away.
When you're playing drums along with a record?
Yep.
What did you listen to as a kid? I mean, the mid '60s, you had the British invasion.
I listened to Bill Black Combo. I listened to Groove Holmes. I listened to Jimmy Smith. I used to love watching the drummers on the Tonight Show. What was his name? Louis Belson. Yeah. You know, I used to love those guys. But then when like the Beatles came out and the Stones came out, you know, and you hear one of my favorite drummers is Keith Moon from The Who.
I love The Who.
You know, the way he used to play. He was something. And Mitch Mitchell from The Experience, from Jimi Hendrix Experience. They're the guys I really cut my teeth on. But as far as, you know, listening to Beach Boys, I love the Beach Boys.
Did you really?
Yeah. And nowadays,
But
what
you
I like-
wouldn't. I mean, they weren't a group. You know, you think of them, you think of the Harmonies. You don't think of their drummer.
yeah, they were. That's what I used to love, though.
The Harmonies.
The Harmonies, sure. I got a CD somewhere of just the Harmonies. No instrument, nothing else. It's just their like the Beatles. They did the Love thing.
Right.
They redid the Love thing where just the harmonies are in there sometimes. It's good. Those guys were tight.
Yeah.
You know, what were they trying to be, like the Ink Spots or somebody like that? You know, oldies were for me.
When Steel Mill stopped, not too long afterwards, the E Street Band. You're on the first 2 albums.
I play on the first 2 albums, and a few of the other albums Bruce has some outtakes on and stuff like that. I'm on the video portion of that Born to Run 30-year set. There's a DVD in there that I actually am on now, which is pretty cool. Which I wish I had that hat I was wearing back then.
What
It was
was?
just a red bowler.
Oh,
you know.
okay.
Clive Davis used to love that hat. He said, "Don't lose that hat." And of course, I lost the hat. You know, everything, all my stuff got robbed in San Francisco one time.
The what I refer to as the second album, the
What, The Wild and the Innocent?
Live in the. I mean, that was. It wasn't a huge. I mean, E Street Band wasn't making much money then.
No, oh no.
He was about to get involved in a couple-year legal fight between that and.
Yeah, between his managers and his new managers, and it was something. That album, the first album, Clive Davis was the president of Columbia Records, and Clive loved us, and anything that he could do for us would have been done. But then Clive got involved in his own legal matters, which destroyed him at that point, and he wasn't in Columbia anymore. So Irwin Siegelstein was the guy who became president of Columbia. His act that he loved was Billy Joel. So in lieu of us getting more publicity on the second album, Billy Joel got all the publicity, and we got shelved, basically.
That album, which you know I still listen to.
I do too.
Great album. But the cover art is all shot in Long Branch.
Yes, it is.
What was that like?
It was something the photographer, his name I don't know, but he came down from New York City and said, "Where we're going to go, boys?" And we took him to West End. Here, you want to go someplace? Here's where we're going to take you. And like the cover picture of Bruce sitting there like this, he just had a piece of pizza. And
And he looks so thoughtful.
yeah, he's thoughtful, but he just ate some pizza and he's getting it all his lip, and the guy snapped a picture of him. And then there was this antique shop. I can't remember the name of the street. It's right over, just right by the pharmacy there, if it goes that way. There was an antique shop there, and that picture was taken in front of the antique shop. And we did a few more up in Monmouth Beach, but mainly we were right here in West End.
What was it like? What studio were you in when you made the album, when you recorded it?
914 in Blauvelt, New York. It's called 914 Studios in Blauvelt, New York. It's right over the Tappan Zee Bridge.
Okay.
It's Nyack, right around by Nyack.
What was that like? I mean, now that at that point, well, actually on both his albums, the first album there was talk, Springsteen's going to be the next Dylan.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they were playing him up.
Puts a lot of words in songs.
Yeah, he did then.
Yes, he did. But Dylan's one of his idols.
Good reason.
You know, Van Morrison, one of his idols. Guys that told those stories. You know, that's what Bruce used to love that stuff. We had a little house once we were going. We had a little house in Bradley Beach, and we had a bumper pool table in there, and we'd all be down playing bumper pool. Bruce would be upstairs with his guitar listening and writing and listening, and he came down every once in a while and beat us up on the pool table because he was pretty good. He won the Jersey Guernsey belt a few times from us. So.
He was pretty good at bumper pool?
Yeah, he was pretty good at bumper pool.
He was pretty good at songwriting,
Yes,
too.
he was real good at that.
What's your favorite song of those albums, or do you have one? Or
Incident on 57th
57th
Street. Yeah, I like that one. Me and Davey Sanchez get to kick it around a little bit there, and that was fun.
Davey Sanchez had a big influence on that. I mean, that album was...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he took off after that. I think I've Googled him once, but I don't know that I ever heard him play anything afterwards.
David, he's been in bands with Sting, Eric Clapton.
Done well.
He's around. He just got back from China on his own, playing just on his own. The last time I actually saw David play was in Atlantic City with Annie Haslam from Renaissance.
Okay.
and she turned into an artist and does paintings, and they were trying to make music for her paintings, and that's what they did. And David was just outrageous. All him on the music. He was just outrageous.
When did you guys find Clarence Clemens?
Clarence came around when we were doing, just before we started really doing Rosalita, and Karen Cassidy, who was Tinker's girlfriend at the time, knew Clarence and told me, she says, Vinny, you got to hear the sax player. So I said, well, all right, maybe we will. And then we all went down to Bayville. He was playing at a spirits place with Storm and Norman. And
Was also still around.
I play with Norman every once in a while with Nicky Adio, believe it or not. We have a band and we go out and play a couple times a month. And we saw Clarence. And of course we talked to him and stole him. Norman, I don't know if he ever forgave us for that.
He fit right in with the rest of you guys?
Oh, he's one of the dudes. Right away, no problem.
Now, it didn't work out long term for you with the E Street Band?
No. I was, what do you call, the cog in the wheel? Because that was my band. I started that band with Danny Federici. Bruce will tell the story just same as I tell it, because we invited Bruce to join a band.
Right.
And he did. And then Bruce wrote the songs, and Bruce went on to be whatever. It was still my band, as far as I knew, until Mike Appel told me and the rest of the guys that, no, Bruce is Bruce. You guys aren't anything. In fact, you're not going to make any more money. Because we used to split all the money up after expenses, boom. Everybody'd get their $5, everybody'd get their $25, everybody'd get their $100, whatever it turned out to be. But when Mike took over, he eliminated all of that. And the company took all the money. And they didn't even want to give us anything. They said, you're on the road, we pay for your hotel rooms, we give you food, we give you transportation, that's all you need to know. I said, and then I called Bruce up this very night. I said, hey, Bruce, what's up with this? We're not going to make any money anymore. And Bruce said, what are you talking about? And I told him what Mike told us. So he called, and then we started making $35 a week apiece. That's what we started making.
That wasn't even a lot back then.
That wasn't a lot. It was hard to get pizza and a drive-in when you came home off the road, So when we started doing the second album, because we were still on the road all the time.
Right.
And we'd go to Blauvelt, and we'd have like 3 days. We didn't have a motel room. Me and Clarence set a big tent up behind the place and stayed in the tent. They started giving us $50 extra a week, so we started making $85 a week. And I think the thing that really got me thrown out of the band was Mike Appel's brother came one night, because we had just put Davey in the band. So instead of 5 guys in the band making $85, now there's 6 guys. I counted the money, and it was still just the same for 5 guys.
Right.
So I said,
Gotta
what's
wrap
with this?
this up in a minute.
Okay, he says, what's with this? I said, he says, well, that's all you're getting. I said, no, and I took the money and I hit him in the chest. He tripped over his foot and fell on the ground, so I laid the money on his chest. I said, when this has got another $85 in it, bring it back. Because I figure, don't take 20 more, don't take the money out of ours to pay for the 6th guy. Come on, pinch a little pennies our way. But they didn't pinch anything.
And that was the end of it for you? Regrets?
At that time, I probably had a few, but at that time, I was more mad at the situation than anything. But a year goes by, and then I run into Bruce again, and we actually figure out that we are actually friends.
That's great.
And no, regrets, hey, I didn't make all the money those guys made, but I had a good life.
Good for you.
I've done a lot of stuff.
Well, thanks very much for coming over. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Glad to.